I don't. I'm sorry.
The Princess Bride rats. You don't remember those ones? The giant one that jumps on him and he bites him in the arm and
Are you talking about Monty Python? That was a
then
rabbit.
no, no, not that one. That's a great scene, but the rabid rabbits.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking about I think they're like something rodents, like large size rodents or
A
something like
rat
that.
is a rodent. What's the largest rodent, Lance? It's one of my favorites.
A mouse. Uh,
Oh my God. Aid, you're a teacher. What's the largest rodent?
A rabbit?
No. They
A
a
swim.
snake.
possum? An
Alligators.
otter?
I don't think are possums rodents. I don't think. No, possum is a marsupial, isn't it?
Oh yeah. No, an otter. Yeah,
No,
they're
that's a mammal. It's a capybara.
Mm.
oh, fun, fun, fun,
See,
fun.
we love to educate here on Slashers
Fun,
Podcast,
fun facts,
everybody.
folks.
Oh, I
Fun, fun
had no
facts.
idea. That's
Fun, fun.
hilarious.
That's my other show.
Ah, Mikey.
Woo!
Well,
Y'all ready? Ready for this? Ready, ready, ready?
to talk about the movie or other stuff.
Talk about other stuff right now. We're gonna actually see how you guys' day is, and I got like a fun little thing we can try to do, especially thanks to Aid and the people of Chucky. So I thought we could maybe actually do a live thing here since I haven't called, or unless you want to do it, Mikey.
I'd rather not.
No, okay. Well, let's start off with how's your guys' day been? What are you guys up to? Anything new?
I'll go first since Aid's obviously going to do her live performance of Chucky Takes Manhattan. I, you know, Fallout. Let's get it out of the way.
Oh, so good.
I don't know yet. I was like, I'm gonna watch Baby Reindeer, one episode of Baby Reindeer, and then I'm gonna go to Fallout, and I'm gonna go back to Baby Reindeer, and then I'm gonna go back to Fallout. If y'all don't know, Baby Reindeer is a show on Netflix. Fallout is a show on Amazon based off the video game Fallout, whatever. And so I saw Baby Reindeer, 30-minute episodes, gowns, beautiful gowns. It was a great time. I was emotionally involved because I know what it's like to be mentally unstable. And so I felt sorry for the woman. And people were like, oh, it's so creepy, it's so scary. But I was like, this is like a comedy. It's not really. But then it ends. The first episode ends, and you're like, oh, that's where we're gonna go. So then I was like, okay, Fallout time. And there's a certain podcast I listen to where the host talks about nerd stuff, and it just makes you want to watch these stupid things. And so I was like, fine, I'll give Fallout a chance. I watched it, and I was like, this is interesting. And I like had to pause it for something. And now we're in 14 minutes an episode, bitch. I said, not tonight. So I went
Oh
back to
my
Baby Reindeer.
God.
I went back to Baby Reindeer. And that's my shit right now. I will go back to Fallout, but the whole time I was watching Fallout, I was thinking about what was going to happen on Baby Reindeer. So I could not flip flop those shows. And Baby Reindeer, 30-minute episodes. I think there's like 7. Get through it real quick.
No.
Nice.
Yeah,
Aid.
that's a sweet spot with episodes. I think like 30, 40-minute episodes, like I can totally do that.
Yeah.
When it starts, getting longer than that, ugh. Um, today was fine. This week's been fine. I just got back from Vegas. I've had,
Woo.
yeah.
Oh yeah, all the sins. What'd you do? Can't tell us. Don't worry about
Well, no, I didn't sin. My good friend I grew up with since kindergarten, Stephanie, got married. So congrats, Stephanie and Paul. Get the shout out here on Slashers podcast.
it. Woo,
Um,
Stephanie
Yay.
Paul.
yeah, so we had a great time, great wedding, lots of fun people. I won like 130. I was down,
Damn.
I was down to like $2, and I went to the ATM and got another 100 out, and then I won it all back and more. So there you go.
Every Vegas
Perfect.
success story.
Here's a Vegas tip that I learned from Whoopi Goldberg. You
Mm,
go with a certain amount of money you're okay with losing. Like I think last time I went, it was just a weekend. I was like, I'm gonna lose $1,000 and I'll be okay. So you put
Mm,
aside $1,000 and then you separate your winnings. So it's like I spent $1,000, that's what I'm using, but everything I win is gonna go in this bucket. So when you run out of $1,000, you look at how much you actually have, and you're like, am I cool with losing this too, or do I just
right.
count my losses and keep it? So
mm.
that's what I did. I spent it all. It's fine. It
Oh,
was nice in
Nice.
theory, but I did turn $1 into $200 at a penny machine.
oh, but that's the best way to do it. Like literally, I hit like one machine, I hit the button, I was getting pissed because I was losing, and I'm like, fuck, because I was about to lose everything again. And then I just hit the highest bet and boom.
Mm-hmm. Did you do anything
Oh,
nasty,
shit.
or did I have a more wild time in a small town country city in Texas than you did in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I didn't do anything nasty. I was put to bed at like midnight, I think, that night. And then the next day, no, nothing nasty. I
Lame.
wish. Yeah. I wasn't on the strip though. I wasn't on the strip. If I was on the
Oh,
strip, it could have been different. But last time
Oh.
I was on the strip, I did a photo shoot with the Chippendales dancers, and I still have the photos to prove it because they were pretty hot.
that's
Yay.
cool. Last time I was in
Yeah.
Vegas, I hooked up with the guy from Grindr. Everybody was gambling downstairs, so that was fun.
Oh, well, there you go. You gambled on
There it
something else,
is.
I guess. But yeah.
Gambled on the safety of those condoms.
It's amazing. Well, it sounds like you both had an amazing weekend. Thanks for catching up with our second installment of Monster Mash.
Monster Maysh.
Mash.
Mash. Sorry.
Mashed potatoes.
Mash. Where we're going to hit into one of my favorite old school movies, The Gate. In this situation, no one's gatekeeping; it's just letting them in. This movie actually appeared in 1987. It was definitely one of my favorite kind of movies. It had a couple of really cool people in it, but mostly everybody will know is going to be, is it Stephen or Stephen Dorff? Stephen Dorff.
Dorff, not dwarf.
Dwarf.
Oh my
Stephen
God.
Dorff
From
Nice.
Blade.
from
Yes.
Blade. He was so hot in
Yes.
Blade. I loved
Yeah,
him.
he was.
Oh my God. I was in love with him. I would watch Blade just for him.
How did I
Mhm.
know? That would be the moment right here. Oh my gosh. This one came out in 1987. What's the director was Tober Tikes? I don't even know how to enunciate that. Does anybody know how to say that properly?
Yeah, I'm
Probably?
coming. Hang on. My mouse isn't working.
English
Yeah, like,
teacher's coming.
yeah, no, I know.
She's
I
like-
don't want to mess his name up.
She's like John Smith.
Yeah,
Tabor.
dude,
I think it's Tabor Takacs or Takacs.
Taxi. It's not an easy one, name wise.
No, I'm sure he's not,
Sounds
traditional
Offended?
made up like
American.
the Galacticus from Leviathan. What's with all these names?
I know.
Lewis, the best friend. He's kind of more of like your classic Eddie from I was gonna go blank on that one. Eddie from Metalhead guy from
Oh, Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. Yeah, he's kind of your classic metalhead guy. Likes his music. He's kind of like not really the bad boy, but I mean, obviously from that age bracket of like 80s, there's always that one kid. I'm actually surprised Aid wasn't like totally crushing on him, to be honest with you.
Okay,
He had
first of
red
all,
hair and
he
he
was-
had metal.
He was okay.
He was a
no,
nerd.
He was a
Lance.
total nerd, okay? And he was no Eddie Munson. How
No,
dare
he
you?
was
So what
not.
you're saying is
Oh my God.
what you're saying is you hate nerds. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying
Strike
that I
two.
hate nerds.
Strike
I-
two. There's a
Okay,
certain
there's-
podcast that I listen to who would not appreciate what you're talking about.
I already got yelled at today about that. So whatever.
Did you see how quickly she goes? He was a nerd, Lance.
Well,
A
he was. You
nerd."
know what he looked like? You know,
No, but
from
you're trying to know because you're trying to say he's a metal guy. He's not a metal
He
guy.
was. He was totally a metal kid.
not visually. Sure, he had a metal album. When I was young, I had Rob Zombie was whatever that music was.
This movie's budget was $6 million, and it actually made at the end of everything 13.5 million. So it actually was a hit for all
Yeah.
purposes,
More than double.
especially in the 80s. Yeah, I think with the graphics for this, practical, there was a little practical in there, I would say, to some degree, where the guy's skull gets crushed, like the father.
The father melting, yeah.
Yeah, and the phone melting, which is very similar to the melting of Indiana Jones
Yeah.
movie.
Mm.
What did you guys think of I mean, from that time frame? I mean, honestly, I actually kind of thought some of the effects were actually pretty on point for that in clay animation. I would assume that was what it was.
So when I was watching it, because I've seen this before, and I've always been like, how come this isn't more popular? Like, it's kind of only known amongst horror fans, but it really should be more popular. And watching it, other than like the very end, when it gets to like the different color CGI, it's really good with graphics. The creepy little whatever they are, demons.
Yeah.
when he falls, when the guy falls and disperses into a bunch of those little running demons, like I that used to be on one of those commercials before a VHS that you'd buy where they were like advertising the distribution company. I remember them always playing that little scene and being that. But no, the graphics are really good. And also for this being a monster movie, which I typically don't find them scary, they're scary.
The demonic minions are played by actors in rubber suits, and I guess it was shot a lot of the time in through forced perspective, especially that shot where the guy
I was
falls.
wondering that.
Even though it's PG-13, because it's funny, like I've seen it before when I was a kid, and then last year at the end of the year, the kids were like, "Play a scary movie," and I'm like, "Oh, The Gate is PG-13. You can
Yeah.
watch that." So I played it. But I always have to remember that PG-13 movies are from the 80s. And then I told the kids, I said, if you hear something that you're not supposed to hear that nobody says anymore, it's because this was the 80s.
They were still trying to figure out what
I
PG-13
know.
meant.
Exactly. I go, I'm so sorry or whatever. But I figured, because
Oh,
I knew it was a bunch of kids, right? And it's a bunch of kids that have to save the day. So there's really no like, interjection of any parental or adult figures that who are coming in to save the day. The kids are doing the entire thing. So
yeah.
I think in a way this kind of reminds me of like a lot of 80s movies at that time, like for example, The Goonies and like other
Monster
The
Squad.
Monster
ET,
Squad where they say
Monster Squad. Yeah, Monster Squad, which is
Well,
why I
they
don't play
definitely dropped the
that.
F-bomb twice, actually,
They
I
in this
do in
know.
one.
this one too. Yeah. So I
Yeah, I
mean,
was thrown off by that. I was
Yeah.
like, especially the first one where he does that, like he says it and then he runs away, and the guy's like, "Hey, dude."
Yeah, well,
mhm.
what I liked about this one, because in Monster Squad, as everybody on this show knows, I don't that word doesn't bother me. But in Monster Squad, they say it in like a okay, like yeah, tell them. But in this one, when they say it, like the older kids are even like, that's not cool. So it's like
Yeah.
that reaction's a lot better than being like, yeah, tell them, call them.
Well, and Monster Squad, the bully is the one who's saying it, right? So, I mean, it stands to reason that they're still
Yeah,
looking at this as a slur, obviously. But
Right.
at the end of the day, like I don't think they say it in the Goonies, thank God. But
I don't think so.
and
Yeah, no, I don't
ET,
think so either.
yeah, ET and stuff like that. So there's a lot of 80s movies where the kids are just basically in charge, right?
When
Because
ET calls them a
yeah, when ET,
Go
there's
home, F word. Go
a
home.
AT, fly home. Anyways, yeah. So
why they killed him
I,
at the end. But go ahead.
Well,
oh my God, no. So,
spoiler.
And when I was a kid, I would always be terrified that my parents were going to leave me with my sister. And I think I also connected with this movie when I was young because I did have an older sister. So like when I was young, I had a teenage sister that like had friends that would come over. But like as an adult, I'm like, our parents never left us. That didn't really happen.
yeah, like my parents would leave us like after school, like for a couple
Yeah,
hours until I got home,
not
right? But it wasn't,
days.
no, not for days. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, could you imagine? My brother and I would be killed. We would kill each other. Like, there would be no
Well,
Stephen left. Poor thing.
from a certain age bracket, there was basically a thing called latchkey kids, where the actual terminology literally came from kids who would just basically have their key to go home because their parents were never at home when they got home. So that was basically just so they could just get in, so they walk home. But it was an actual terminology. It was actually I think an old school punk band called Latchkey Kids.
Yeah, and I think
And
there's like a story or a show called Latchkey Kids also, or a play or
oh, really?
something. Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
that was me too. I had to after fifth grade, I had to walk home from school, and then when I went to middle school, I had to ride the bus. And my parents worked all the time, so I had to have a key to get in the house, and I was by myself for like 3 or 4 hours, but never
Yeah.
like overnight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. I was home until, like 7 o'clock. Most of us were like that, I think, because, our parents couldn't afford to like,
Hispanics.
yeah, maybe that was the thing too. Yeah.
It wasn't as scary back then as it is now to do that.
Oh
No.
yeah. Well, okay, so basically the storyline going along with what we're talking about, basically the parents leave for the weekend. They're going off to a little trip. They leave their phone numbers of where they're going to be, which is a classic parent thing to do. Here's all the numbers you're going to get. If anything emergency happens, it's on the wall. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's the classic, don't tell mom the babysitter's dead kind of vibe, where she automatically throws a party. the brother's like not really a part of the whole thing. His friend's kind of a nerdy friend,
Yeah.
but he's kind of one of those
Oh,
guys,
now he's a nerd. Okay.
A nerdy metalhead.
a nerdy metalhead. Thank you, Mikey.
Uh-huh. Mm.
Weirdly enough, though, you think about it in that time frame, metalheads were considered nerds and not part of the fold.
Yeah, they
So
weren't considered cool back then.
yeah, so I mean, as much as you like Eddie,
Were they?
you know, who played D&D, which you would have probably called him out for.
Well, that's fine that he played D&D, but you don't have to like, look
What do you
nerdy
think
to
metal
be
is?
nerdy.
Metal is literally D&D for games.
Metal is music that people who aren't musically inclined play. I'm just kidding.
What? Good God.
Like
I don't condone that
vampires,
what he said there. He's just
Mr.
messing with everybody.
Just
Mr.
kidding. That's what he
Well,
said about punk.
Mr. Punk and Ska over here, like
I
he
mean,
gives
punk
a
is that.
shit.
Exactly. Every punk person will say that.
I listen to
Punk is-
heavier shit than Lance does, so don't even go there.
She listens to
Ooh.
radio metal.
I do not listen to
Whatever.
radio
No,
metal.
How dare
So
you?
go
She
ahead.
listens to Atreyu and whatever that other band is.
You're not helping her.
Oh my god, I
know.
love Atreyu. How dare you?
No, I like Atreyu. Don't get me wrong.
No.
You know, another thing too to bring that up, I do actually like the sibling interaction because I felt like that was more realistic than not, to be honest with you. Where it was sometimes it was a hate kind of thing because you're in my way, but at the same time, I love you because you are my family and my brother, you know, kind of deal. So I thought that was a really good interaction, especially for the writing and even the friend, honestly, because you could kind of tell the friend had issues. But later on, something gets said, I think, from one of the sayings that on the thing. It opens like I guess a crack in the door. Are we saying probably right? Like, is it
Didn't he cut his hand and his blood fell into the hole and that's
right? They did, I guess, technically some of the ceremony without knowing they did the ceremony.
yeah.
Yeah, because
So
they're reading something about like you need 2 sacrifices, yada yada yada.
yeah.
And then a bunch of like gas comes out of the hole, which
Yeah.
everyone don't have to worry about any of this ever happening again because these kids will not go dig in the yard for anything if their phone's not with them. So
Yeah, right.
we're safe.
Yeah.
I could see this being popular in the 80s and even I was watching In Search of Darkness. I think part 3 they mentioned this movie and even everyone talking, about the film, they talk about the practical effects, they talk about like the relationships in the film, just like you're saying, and everyone's very surprised that it is not more popular than it should be.
Yeah.
And it has spawned a sequel, and Lewis Tripp obviously is in the second one. So
He's the only one I think in the second one.
yeah, and so I think like it's a shame that it's not more popular because I don't know if to play off on what Mikey was saying, because it's a lot scarier than let's say Monster Squad or obviously ET or something like, or the Goonies, or I'm just thinking of like everything with just the kids in it.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's actually scarier that it's not as accessible.
Mm.
Maybe parents didn't show their kids it so much because they were like, no,
Yeah.
this is actually kind of scary.
Yeah.
Well, here's some more fun facts about it. Weirdly enough, they did do a sequel, because this was in '87. So in '92, they actually came out with the second one, which again, was saying is, Lewis is actually the only recurring character from that first movie, and unfortunately, it just didn't capture because technically this was an actual hit of a movie. So the fact that the sequel didn't come out till like several years later, and then it only had one reoccurring character. It's kind of crazy to think about because you would think, okay, yeah, but at the time maybe Steven was, on his stride and doing a lot better things and bigger things, so it makes more sense to him maybe. And I think this movie only did, what did it say? I think it did $2 million, the second one. So it was, I mean, considerably from the first one, it's a flop.
Have y'all seen the second one?
I haven't actually. I'm actually kind of interested in it.
I haven't seen it either. I want to, but I've never seen it.
Yeah. And then actually, there was talks actually at one point. Alex Winters, who I love Alex Winters from Bill and Ted's.
Alex Winter, yes, from Bill and Ted. Winter.
Yes.
Stop putting an S at the end of his name.
I'll put Winters.
No, it's Winter. Alex Winter.
Either or.
From the Lost Boys.
Because she loves him from that, because he's Marcos.
I mean, I don't.
He's Marco. You did that on purpose, you son of a bitch.
But
And I'm wearing a Lost Boys shirt. How
That's
dare
so funny.
you?
So he was actually in the works and talking of doing a Gate 3, and they were going to do a 3D version of it, which I thought actually sounds kind of cool, especially with the little creatures and the way they kind of came off in the first one. Weirdly enough, they kind of come off 3D-ish, or you could actually pull it off. But I guess, unfortunately, it is in purgatory and hold because of whatever manners that be where it's being held. Like either somebody has rights or somebody doesn't want to do something or they don't agree on whatever. But that's unfortunate. It sucks. I would like to still see 2. Maybe we can do that sometime later on or something like that, or
In
recap.
Florida.
Yeah. Basically, in the end, he shoots the rocket. It goes through the main creature's chest or heart. Like you said, it's basically it's a Hallmark ending. It's like everybody comes back weirdly in the closet. I don't know why that was the weird spot they ended up coming back in. They come back out, and then
Now I understand the message.
The
Everything's
metaphor, Lance, a
fine.
metaphor.
Everything's fine as
Oh my
long
God.
as you go back into the closet, y'all.
Yeah. Well, they
Exactly.
actually come back out, so technically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.